Good evening, and thank you for inviting me this evening. Mikdash Melech, the yeshiva which I sent my own son to, and a special thank you to our host and hostess, Mr. and Mrs. Sayeg, for opening your beautiful home to us. You should only be blessed with simachot and besurot tovot. Amen. This evening's presentation is in the Le'ilui Nishmat Yitzhak ben Monafarg, and also Refuah Shelema for Hacham Baruch Rafael ben Miriam. Should have a Refuah Shelema. And on that note, this evening's presentation, which you've asked me to speak on, is the Torah attitudes to health, especially based on the Rambam, on Maimonides. Please tell them I'm not available, I'll call them back later. So,
Could everybody shut off their cell phones, please, just for this time being? We don't want cell phones ringing here.
No problem.
Everybody just close your cell phone.
Have a seat for you. Jody, you want to sit here?
I don't know if I shared this one with you, but there was once a businessman. He went to the Regency, in Upper East Side. They have these power breakfasts in the Regency. So he comes back to his office, and the secretary says, your doctor called with the results of the tests. Oh, good. What did he say? Well, there's good news and bad news. Which do you want first? I'll take the good news. The good news is you're going to die in 3 days. The good news is I'm going to die in 3 days? That's the good news. What's the bad news? The bad news? He called 2 days ago. I forgot to give you the message. It's only a joke. But you know something? No one knows their expiry date. It's never too late. It's later than we think, but it's never too late. But I'm going to share with you tonight the directives, the halachot of refuah. I shouldn't call it refuah. Of health, beriyot. Hanhagot ha-beriyot. The directives for health, based on the Rambam. Now I'll ask you an honest question. If you had the time and patience to read every medical journal in America on the subject of nutrition and health and diet and exercise, and you read every book on the shelves of Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble on health, nutrition, exercise and diet, and you studied every article on the website on health and nutrition and diet and exercise, would you come out with an incredible clarity or totally confused? Which would it be? Totally confused. Why is that? Because it appears there are so many differing opinions, many of them based on scientific information, experimentation, not just speculation. Where are we supposed to turn to on the subject of health so that we can have such a clarity that we cannot just, I hope that I'll always be healthy, I hope I'll have good health. No, we want to plan to have good health. But can we really plan? Well, I'm going to share with you the following. Rambam was known as someone who speculated a lot, or was a tremendous rationalist, someone who had a scientific mind. What would you say? Very rational. He had a tremendously rational approach to every area that he taught. And yet, I'm going to ask you the following question. I'm going to quote to you from Hilchot Deot. This is the Mishneh Torah. This is a halachic legal guide. And he has a chapter here completely dedicated to the subject of health directives. 23 short paragraphs. We're going to go through most of them tonight together. And I'm going to ask you the question. Listen to directive number 21 and ask yourself, is this rational? Question. Says Rambam at the end of his directives, Kol hamanhik atzmo b'drachim elu shaharenu. Anyone who follows the guidelines laid out in this chapter, ani arev lo. That's a very strong language. That's almost the language of oath. Ani arev lo. I guarantee to that person that if he follows these directives on health, she'eino ba lidei choli kol yamav. He will never become ill his entire life. It's unbelievable. But he doesn't stop there. Ad sheyazkin harbe v'yamot. Until he dies of very old age. You know, before I finish his guarantee, who is the one community that we now know, only in the last 50, 60 years, have we begun to have communication with this community after 2,000 years of separation? Which community can you identify follows the Rambam, Maimonides, to a T? The smallest detail. Which community? The Yemenites. Does anyone here know what is the average age of a Taimani Yemenite Jew? Not ones who were born in America or ones who moved to America and changed their diet slightly, but the original Yemenite community. What's the average age? Any idea?
90.
Getting real close. 97 to 105. Wow. Interesting. Says Rambam, I guarantee you, a person will never need a doctor. He will only die of very old age. He will not need a doctor. His body will be complete. The omed al beriyav kol yamav. He will remain healthy his entire life. Unbelievable. Now let me ask you a question. Rambam, Maimonides, 800 years ago, at the age of 31, entered medicine. By the age of 39, he was the personal physician to the Sultan, Saladin, the regent of Egypt. He was invited to become the personal physician of King Richard the Lionheart. In those days, if a physician made a slight mistake in his directives on health, what was the obvious danger? What was the obvious risk? He'll be killed. But wait a minute. Maimonides is not only the physician to the regent of Egypt, he's the leader of the Jewish community. So what else is at stake here? What else is at risk? If he makes a mistake in the health directives of the regent of Egypt, Saladin, what will happen? The entire Jewish community could be killed. And yet, Maimonides says with absolute certainty, Ani arevlai, I guarantee, he will only die of old age, never need a doctor, he will never become ill. His body will only remain strong his entire life. Question, how can he say that? Is it based on speculation, experimentation, information that's known at that time to medicine, or is the information he's sharing with us coming from the same transmission of information that was given to us at Sinai, and that the Torah gives us clarity, and the clarity is from God, the creator of our body, who knows exactly how it works, how it best performs, and therefore these 21, 23 directives are a reflection of how the body functions. I let you be the ones to pass verdict. Let's go through these 21 directives very quickly together and ask yourselves, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the breakthroughs in contemporary medical science, and ask yourselves, if I follow even just 2 or 3, and I will pull out the main directives out of this, if I just follow 2 or 3, how would that change my health? Even though you may be experiencing excellent health now. I will share with you one last point, and that is the following. Maimonides, in Torah law, has been accepted in all circles of all scholarship in the last 800 years. But not only that, he's a famous physician in medical science as well. To the extent that this personality was one of the greatest communicators, one of the greatest teachers, who had such clarity of the information himself, that written on his tombstone is the statement, Mi Moshe ad Moshe. From Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, the lawgiver, the redeemer of the Jewish people, ad Moshe, till Moses Maimonides, lo kam ki Moshe. No one arose as great as Moses Maimonides. That's how highly he's held. So let's look at these statements and see if we can understand the profound simplicity of his directives on health. And ask ourselves in the 45 minutes left to us, if we can walk out of this room tonight saying, you know something? Rambam, Maimonides, cuts through all the forest of confusion in an age which has the most advanced information available to us on the subject of health, diet, nutrition, and anything to do with the exercise. I myself have no right to make the statement that I can bet, but I'm certain that when we walk out of this room tonight, we will have a totally different clarity, appreciation for our body, the purpose of maintaining one's health, and how uncomplicated it can be, even in a world of fast food and very complex nutrition, nutrients. Sometimes, you know what, the packaging and the food today, when you look at the ingredients of what's in what we're eating, there's more nutrition in the packaging than the actual food. I am willing to share with you this information tonight and ask you to pass verdict. Is this statement accurate? We don't need to pass verdict, Has v'shalom, on Moshe on Rambam. But let's ask ourselves, does this still hold water till today? One last introduction, and that's the following. Rambam is not without his detractors. There are those, amongst the rabbis as well, who've said that even though his statements are legally binding, when it comes to health, it's not legally binding. Why? And they have a statement, and this is based on the Talmud and Rishonim, Tosafot. And what is that? Mishtanot hateva. The nature, metabolism of the body has changed over the centuries. I will quote to you, however, in response to that, the Migdal Oz. Migdal Oz is one of the Rishonim, one of the earliest commentators. And if you look at one of the original printings of Maimonides, there are over 500 commentaries on Maimonides, but of the first printings, the Migdal Oz is on the first page, on every page of Rambam. That's how important he is. And I will quote to you what he says on this chapter. And it's very important to note this distinction, because many people will say, well, what he says doesn't apply anymore. You be the ones to judge that, but let me first share with you his defender. The Migdal Oz says the following. Kol hadivarim, all the items, shebeperek hazeh, that are in this chapter, kalulim midivrei refuot b'ma'amarei rabotenu zal mifuzarim b'chol Talmud. These statements are taken on the subject of health and recovery based on the statements of our holy sages throughout the Talmud. And he gives a long list of pages and tractates. And he concludes with the following words. Vehem pratim pshutim. They are simple statements, simple items. Utzrichim lakol, and everyone needs them. V'hakol modim bahem, and everyone agrees with them. How can it be? We said some people say the body, the metabolism has changed. But I want to share with you the following distinction, very important. What they are referring to when they argue with Maimonides are suggestions he makes not so much in this chapter, but in other works of his medical writings, which refer specifically to refuah, recovery, diagnosis, pathology, study of disease. On that, it's true that the body has changed. But I challenge you to pass verdict yourselves if what we're about to learn actually applies still today, as much as any other time in history. Without any further ado, we're going to hit Rambam. Now, the first two words in the Torah, the Kotzk Rebbe tells us, what's the first two words in the Torah? Bereshit, bara. The Lashon HaKodesh, the holy tongue, is perfect. It's Hashem's language. The word bara means created, but it has another meaning. What is the shoresh of bara? Bari. What does bari mean? Health. Says the Kotzk Rebbe, Bereshit bara. In the beginning is health. Because without health, how can I serve God? Now watch how Rambam starts off his halachot. If I say anything in Hebrew, some of the quotes I will be sharing with you in the original Hebrew, but I will be translating very clearly and explaining it all. Starts Rambam in his first directive, halakha number 1. Ho'il v'heyot haguf, since a body, bari v'shalem, that is healthy and complete, midar ke Hashem hu, is from the ways of serving God. Shahari efsha shiyavin o yeda dava miyadit haboreh, because it's impossible to know anything about Hashem v'hu choleh, while a person's ill. When I'm ill, has v'shalom, what am I going to be focused on? Recovery. I can't be focusing properly on how to serve Hashem. Many mitzvot we're patur from. Many mitzvot, the person visiting the ill person is patur from. Lefikach, therefore, tzarich laharchik adam atzmo, a person should distance himself. Midvarim hame'abdim et haguf, anything that harms the body, he should distance himself from. Ulahanig atzmo, and train himself. Midvarim hamavrim v'amachliim, train himself with anything that will make him stronger or invigorate his body. Ve'eluhen, and these are the directives. Number 1, and listen to the depth of this. Le'olam. Le'olam is a language of consistently or constantly. I hope I'm not waking anyone up in the front here with this loud... Okay. Le'olam. If I wake you up, please tell me. Le'olam lo yachel adam ela keshu ra'ev. Now don't tell the media this one. A person should consistently not eat unless he's hungry. Now that doesn't fit very well with American culture. But let's look at the other 2 items and put them together and ask ourselves, can we really understand the profound statement here of Maimonides? V'lo yishteh, a person shouldn't drink, ela keshut sameh, unless he's thirsty. V'al yishe nekavav afilu rega echad. And he should not delay going to the bathroom to relieve his body of his needs for a moment. 3 things. Number 1, eat when hungry, drink when thirsty, relieve one's body as soon as one has the sensation to need to go. Question, does that sound deep, philosophical, profound, or extremely simple? Sounds very simple. What Rambam is telling us is extremely profound, profoundly simple, and I'll tell you why. He's saying a very simple thing. The perfection of your body was created by its designer with such calculation and harmony that you can trust its integrity. If my body says it's hungry, eat. Thirsty, drink. Relieve oneself, relieve oneself. Trust the language of your body. When a person doesn't listen, for example, I'm tired. Solution, caffeine. Question, when a person takes a cup of coffee when he's tired, am I serving my body or am I cheating my body? When my body's tired, it's saying to me, rest, go to sleep. And when I say, keep quiet, I'm busy. Shahakol niyeh b'devaro, drinks a cup of coffee which only has 300 different ingredients in it, and artificially stimulates my brain into thinking that I'm very awake, but really there's a price to pay later on, besides the addiction. And I'm not knocking coffee. You're going to see soon what Rambam says about what to eat. You'll be surprised. You're going to be very shocked. But says Rambam, listen to the integrity of my body. You can trust it. There's a very great philosopher. His name was Emerson. And he said, one day in the life of the human body is enough to steal all the luster from fiction. What he's saying is the following. You could take all the works of Shakespeare, all the works of Joseph Conrad, Jane Austen, Spielberg, Harry Potter, all 4 volumes, and compress all that into a 24-hour period. Can you imagine the excitement of every fictional novel, play, movie, and put all that excitement into 24 hours? Wouldn't that be an amazing experience? Says Emerson, one day in the life of the human body, if you could travel through your lungs, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your bloodstream, the excitement would be so great, it would be immeasurably greater than all the luster, desire, craving for fiction that a person has excitement from. The heart, that little pump, how much blood does it pump a day? How much blood? Anyone? Average adult, between 8 to 12 pints of blood a day. How many trips does it make around the body in a 24-hour period? Any idea? 3,000 to 5,000 trips a day. And when does it stop? 70, 80, 90, 100 years. How much maintenance? Hopefully none. Amazing. Our kidneys weigh no more than 5 ounces, and yet they filter 450 gallons of blood each day. And they remove the toxins in the blood through the urine, and it doesn't stop. It continues moving, working. Our lungs, absorbing oxygen, expelling the carbon dioxide, pumping day in, day out, 365 days a year, 70, 80, 90, 100 years. What Rambam is telling us in those 3 simple statements is that the body is so perfect in its creation, in its design. Trust its integrity. Why does he say, relieve oneself straight away? What is the one function out of all the functions in the body that takes up the most energy? Anyone? Downstairs. Anyone downstairs? The digestion. What happens if, God forbid, has v'shalom, a person holds himself in? What is the danger? What is the danger if food is not properly digested? What will happen to that food? It will putrefy in the body, and instead of the bloodstream receiving food that's properly digested, if it's not properly digested, the food will be toxic. And the toxins will go into the bloodstream. Bloodstream carries this toxicity through how many miles of capillaries and arteries? Any idea? If you took every capillary, I think you pronounce it differently in America. Capillary, okay. So I'm educated in England, what can I do? In case you hadn't noticed. And every artery, if you took every capillary, and every artery, and you put it one end on the other and stretched it, how far would it go? How many times? 3 times round the diameter of the world, 60,000 miles. That's how many miles of blood vessels there are in the human body. The blood is going through the blood vessels, bringing energy, oxygen, nutrition, carbon dioxide, oxygen, amino acids, protein to the cells. And the cells are re-energized. If there's toxicity in the bloodstream, the cells are infected. And God forbid, can cause organs to malfunction. Says Rambam, Maimonides, defecate, go to the bathroom as soon as there's a physical need for it. I want to share with you the next point he says. Directive number 2. Lo ye'achel adam ad shitmalek riso. A person should not eat to the point that his stomach is completely full. Ella, but rather yivchot kemo revia misviato. He should lessen the amount that he eats by about a quarter. How will you know that it's about a quarter of the food? Well, one way is put as much food as you really want to eat on the plate, and then take off 25%. And then you'll know that's about 1 quarter less than I would have otherwise eaten. Don't drink water during the meal. Why not? What happens to the food in the stomach if there's a lot of water? What happens to the food? The food is... What's happening to the food in the stomach? The stomach is like an oven. It's boiling the food, very high temperature. And if there's too much liquid, what will happen to the gastric juices that come out of the stomachs of the walls of one's stomach that come in to break down the food? Will it have more exposure or less exposure because of the dilution of liquid? Less exposure. So instead of increasing, it will decrease the efficiency of the digestion. And therefore, again, the food will not properly digest and then more easily putrefy. And if it putrefies, if it rots in the stomach, problems with the bloodstream. So says Rambam, a person should not drink too much water during a meal. Next point he says, V'lo yachel ad shivtok asmo yafeh. Don't eat until one's checked that one needs the bathroom or not. Then he says, Lo yachel adam ad sheyelech kodem achila. A person shouldn't eat until he's gone, ad sheyatchil gufo lachum, till his body has become somewhat warm. Now we're going to talk about exercise. Or yaseh melacha, or he should do some other activity, or yityagea b'yagia acher, or some other exertion. Klalul shel davar. The principle of this matter, yi'aneh gufo, he should exert his body, v'yagia kol yom baboker, each day in the morning, exercise, ad sheyatchil gufo lachum, till his body gets hot, v'yishkot mat, then relax a little, ad she'yashev nafsho, till he feels relaxed, ve'ochel, and then eat. And then he mentions, best thing to eat is a bit of fruit, and then have his pat shachrit, his bread. Ve'im rachatz bechamin, if he takes a hot shower, after his exercise, harizeh tov, that's very good. V'char kach shoy ma'at, then relax a bit, and then eat. Question. What do you believe would be Rambam's definition of exercise? He said it here, make the body reach a point of hot temperature. But in his other work called Hanhagot HaBriot, he's much more precise. He gives us the definition of exercise and the definition of over-exercise. Fascinating. Now you ask authorities on health today, give me a definition of exercise. How many definitions will you get? Hundreds, thousands, the latest version, the latest exercise machine. And is it possible that they found an exercise that works for everybody? Or no, everyone has a different way of exercising. But listen to Rambam and ask yourselves, is this statement based on speculation, experimentation, or is it a reflection of the way our Creator designed our body? And this is his definition. The definition of exercise is a physical exertion of the body that alters one's respiration, the breathing, forcing him to breathe deeply and more rapidly and successfully than before. Such movement is defined as exercise for that person. So no matter how young, old, fit or not fit a person is, once they reach the point of that's called exercise. But listen, someone once told me that's their exercise is they fill the tub with water, pull out the plug and fight the current. Never mind. But listen to this. Says Rambam, after giving us the definition of exercise for everyone, it reaches the point of heavy breathing. He now defines the best exercise of all. What would you say is the best exercise of all? Walking. Walking is a very good exercise, but it's interesting, Rambam doesn't say that. It's still excellent. Oh! Some people, I'll share with you just a moment. Some people say swimming. Scientifically, you could easily argue that swimming is the best exercise. Why? Because every part of the body that is exposed to the water is stimulated by the water pressure. Even without doing any movement, you can get exhausted just lying in the pool. And some of you know what it's like, just 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes of laps, and you come out really tired. But Rambam says what this young lady in the front said, and that is, the best exercise of all, and doesn't mean the others aren't good, they're very good. But if you really want the top, the best, it's the following, a ball game. He's probably referring to soccer, by the way, but never mind, soccer is a British sport. Why does he say a ball game? And listen to his reasoning. The most beneficial of all exercise is physical stimulation to the point that the soul becomes influenced and rejoices, such as a ball game, because the emotion of happiness will often suffice to heal the body just by its very presence. Joy and happiness make many people's illness milder. Fascinating. The exercise is excellent. Walking, swimming, it's excellent. But it cannot be compared to the emotion of joy or happiness that a person has when they're on the treadmill listening to a favorite song or tape or watching a kosher movie. Whatever it is, or a ball game, especially if you're winning. If you're playing and you're enjoying and you're exercising, your cells are receiving a communication from your mind and your heart that says, I'm happy, I'm enjoying this. We actually have a lot of breakthrough research that's been mounting over the years, and now is very conclusive, that the neurotransmitters between the mind and the cells, there's a correlation, there's a relationship, which means that if, God forbid, someone says, I'm depressed, every cell in their body listens to that message. And then, God forbid, if they're ill and depressed, they tell themselves, life is not worth fighting. I'm depressed anyway. Dear cells, don't bother fighting. I'm going to die anyway. No! There's a relationship. And when the mind says, don't give up. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up again. Don't give up. Start again. I don't care what the doctors say. I don't care how bad my health is. I don't care how long I've neglected to exercise or eat properly. I can make a difference, even if it's only small, that will improve my health gradually. When we speak with conviction, with hope, with joy, when we're enjoying something, when we're laughing, every cell in the body believes it and hears it. There was once a doctor, his name was Dr. Norman Cousins. He was diagnosed with cancer, and he was a number of weeks in hospital, only cost $1,000 a night. And after a while, he said, you know what, this is not working. He signed himself out of hospital into a motel a few blocks away for $39 a night. And he went to Blockbusters and every video store, and he rented every Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, every single Bonnie and Clyde and whatever comedy he could get his hands on, and he laughed himself back to recovery. Because the mind influences the cells, the body. There's a lot of research on this. It's not the place for me now to go into it now because there's a lot to cover still tonight. But here we have from Rambam, the definition of exercise is to reach a point of heavy breathing. Continues Rambam. Never exercise after a heavy meal. Why not? Why not? Have people exercised after a heavy meal and discovered, oh, I've got a terrible stitch. Oh, this is terrible. Anyway, it's so healthy to exercise, I must continue. People have died of heart attack after a heavy meal from exercise, from going swimming, from jogging. And what's the reason? Medically speaking, what's the reason? Because when a person is digesting food, his body is engaged in the most important of all functions right now. The function of digestion takes priority over every other function. It takes the most energy. Why? Why does it get priority? And the answer is, it's dangerous. If the food's not properly digested, eliminated, it, God forbid, becomes toxicity, poison in the bloodstream. So the body knows that digestion is number one priority and needs, therefore, that the blood pumping the bloodstream for the digestion, for that energy, is required. What happens if a person now says, hey, heart, have a heart, I need some extra energy right now because every part of my limbs is moving in the water, jogging on the track. And the heart says, but wait a minute, the digestion needs my energy too. So I put my body into competition with itself. The heart has to supply blood for digestion and for every part of the body that's moving, and God forbid, could cause heart attack. And it's so common, it won't even hit the front pages. Says Rambam, don't exercise after a heavy meal. He says, wait for the food to digest before physical exertion. And he says, exercise before food properly will help your digestion and will save a person from many illnesses. But God forbid, if a person exercises before the food is properly digested, he will cause dangerous illnesses to come upon himself. Rambam now tells us the following. How to exercise. If you're not playing a ball game, he says the following. Begin your exercise slowly and gradually increase it until the sweat is profuse. And you're breathing heavily. The sweat's coming down one's face. But how do you know? That's called exercise. Then Rambam says, continue this. Continue at your maximum until any one of the following three occurs. And that's the sign from your body to stop. And now we come to the definition of overexercise. Says Rambam, the definition of overexercise is either my joints in my body start to feel a strain, my body parts, my legs, my feet, I'm feeling tired, stop exercising. I've reached the point of overexercising. Number 2, if I stop sweating, that's dangerous, says Rambam, stop straight away. And number 3, he says, look at your face. If my face, oh good, only 40 minutes left. I need a mirror in front of my face on the treadmill so that I can see if my face says, you're tired, you're strained, this is too stressful, enough. Quiet, I'm not finished the 40 minutes. My doctor told me this is so healthy. I'm dying. The answer is, I know I'm just being slightly comical, but the answer is, Rambam says, why is the word panim for face? And yet the word pnim, same 4 letters, means the inside. Because the face tells us what's going on inside. So I need to watch the mirror. Says Rambam, if a person experiences, they can, even if they can't see in a mirror, but they can feel their face, that I feel strained on my face, that's the time to stop. Trust your body. Trust the integrity of your body. Now comes the following 3 major principles of health. Says Rambam. I'm running out of time. Shall I tell you the other ones that I'm missing very quickly?
Okay.
Is that a yes or yes? Okay. Gentlemen downstairs, is that a yes? Okay. Okay. He says the following. Don't go to sleep soon after a meal. Why not? If a person has a heavy meal, he shouldn't go to sleep for 2 or 3 hours, says Maimonides. Why not? Has anyone in this room had the experience, or perhaps known anyone, that had a very heavy meal on a Friday night, for example? Then, soon afterwards, went to sleep, and 9 hours later, I wake up, it must be 3 in the morning. 9 hours sleep? I'm so drugged, so tired, so groggy. What could it be? Question. How long does it take for meat to digest in one's stomach? 6 hours. If the body is busy giving energy to breaking down the meat in my body, instead of re-energizing my body, it's spending energy in breaking down a heavy meal, and I sleep for 9 hours, out of which 6 has been spent in digestion, how much rest did my body actually get? I did the math on the way. 9 minus 6 is 3. I got 3 hours sleep, and I wake up Shabbat morning, and I cannot believe I haven't slept 9 hours in 4 weeks. I got 9 hours sleep, and I'm so tired. How can it be? I must have worked so hard this week. No, the answer is my digestion's working hard. Overtime. Says Maimonides, wait 2 or 3 hours before going to sleep. And there's another problem. When a person's awake, do they spend more energy or less energy than when they're asleep? More energy. So when I go to sleep on a heavy meal, the stomach is working faster or slower? Slower. So the digestion is slowed down as well. So everything is less efficient. Says Rambam, wait 2 or 3 hours if a person has a heavy meal. If it's a light meal, it's okay to go to sleep soon afterwards, as long as the digestion is pretty much finished. Continues Rambam. He says, eat light foods first. So if you've got chicken and meat, eat the chicken first. If you've got vegetables and chicken and meat, eat the vegetables first, then the chicken, then the meat. Why? What happens if a person eats meat, for example, and then the vegetables? What will happen? The vegetables will putrefy more easily. They will rot more easily in the stomach, and therefore cause gas and cause that Chas v'shalom, a person could become ill from this. So says Rambam, eat the light food first and then the heavy food. It's better on the digestion. He gives a list of items one should never eat. Now remember, this particular directive was given 800 years ago. They did not have proper refrigeration in those days. There was no refrigeration. So he tells us the items one should avoid at all costs. Number 1, any dairy or meat product which is old and salted. Don't touch. Eggs, meat, dairy, don't touch if it's not fresh. He adds that any food, any tafshil, that the smell is not fresh, don't touch it. V'chein kol machal sherecho ra, any food where the smell isn't right, or ima biote, or is extremely bitter, hari elu leguf. These items are to the body kumosam hamavet, equivalent to poison. Same as taking poison. Poison doesn't kill a person straight away all the time, but it can slowly erode the person's health. By the way, why did our Creator put our nose above the mouth? Why did Ben Shlalem put the nose above the mouth? Yeah, screen what's coming in. If you know that you have a bad cold, be extra careful to make sure that whatever you eat is fresh. Continues Rambam, and this is fascinating. How long has it been known to medical science that honey is detrimental to the health of infants? How long is this known? Honey is dangerous for infants. How long has this been known to medical science? About 20 years. Says Rambam, Hadvash ra liktanim. Honey is dangerous, bad for young children. Why? He's speaking about infants over here. We happen to know that till about 2 or 3 years old, there's bacteria that the stomach muscles has not got the ability yet, hasn't developed to properly digest. Honey can be dangerous for infants. Interesting. By the way, this is not what's stated over here, but how long has it been known to medical science where balance is determined in the body? Where is the balance of the body determined by? Which part of it? In the ears. How long has that been known to medical science? It's about 120 years. Says Rambam, 800 years ago, that the balance is in the ears. It had to be, because the word ozen, me'azen, le'azen, to balance, scales. But moving along. Number 13 over here. Le'olam, very strong language. A person should consistently, yishtadel, make the effort, sheyiyu me'av rafin, that his bowel movement is soft. His stool should be soft. Kol yamav, his whole life. V'yekarov l'shul mat. It should be close to diarrhea. Forgive me for translating it directly. V'zeh klal gadol b'refuah. This is a great principle when it comes to healing. Kol zman sharai nimna. The whole time that a person has difficulty going to the bathroom, or yotze bekushi, who's constipated, chalaim ra'im ba'im, very bad illnesses come upon a person. Same problem as before. If the digestion is not efficient, a person's not going to the bathroom sufficiently frequently and easily, which the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch tells us is approximately twice a day for Gedolim, for, I don't know how you say it in English. Number 3, in English it's called threepence. Means, but in America you say not a penny, 2 pence, right? 2 cents? How do you call it in America? I don't want to be vulgar. Yeah, a number 2. Thank you. Okay. So the formula is go 2 times a day for number 2. That's the formula. Says Rambam, this is a very good sign for you to know if your body is functioning efficiently. If the stool, the bowel movement is soft, and it's not dark, it's not hard, it's soft, that's a good sign that the body is working well. If a person, has v'shalom, experiences constipation consistently, it can often be because they're not sufficiently engaging in exercise, and exercise does not have to be a whole lot. We just defined it. Every person, once they reach the point of sweating profusely, and it can be for some people 5 minutes, for some 10, for some 20, and they maintain that maximum till they start to feel tired, or their face starts to feel strained, or stop sweating, that's exercise for every person. So says Rambam, that's number 1 principle. Number 2 principle is the following. The od klal ache amru bebriut haguf. Another general rule in maintaining one's health. Kol zman she'adam mit'amel. The whole time a person exerts his body. V'yagir harbe. And he exercises a lot. Ve'eino saveh. And he undereats. He doesn't reach satiation. Umeyav rafin, and his stool, his bowel movement is soft. These are the 3 principles The 3 principles of health. Out of all 23 principles, these are the 3 major ones. Undereating. That's hard for Americans. Undereating. And, in England and in Europe, you go to the restaurant and you're sure you've been shortchanged and cheated. First of all, the teaspoons are half the size. The helpings are about half the size. And you're saying, they are so cheap. They are such misers in Europe. And the answer is, no. The media, the consumer media in America, for the last 40 years, has had a deliberate policy to demonstrate in movies, cinema, on the screen, commercials, television, cinema, magazine, still photos, quantities of food that are more than the stomach needs, to train us to eat more than we really need, because that way we buy more. And that's unfortunately the reality. And yet, we know that the body needs much less. I'll be sharing with you some very interesting statistics in a few moments. But let's get this straight one more time. Rambam says 3 cardinal principles in maintaining health. Number 1, undereat. Number 2, exercise every day. Number 3 is soft bowel movement. But he doesn't stop there. All the time that person experiences these 3, exercise, good bowel movement, and undereating, ein choli ba alav, no illness, labriut, no illness will come upon him. Vekocho mitchazek, and his strength will increase. V'afilu, now listen to this. I think this is the biggest and the most profound statement out of everything else he says. V'afilu ochel ma'achalot hara'im. If a person eats unhealthy foods, but he exercises, undereats, has good bowel movement, he will experience good health. I correct myself. Excellent health. And these are not my words. This is unbelievable. The society we live in today, out of the thousands of diets and books and articles and tapes and seminars and professionals, how many of us have heard the statement, don't worry about what you eat. Just undereat. Even if you're eating the wrong foods, it's okay. Have you ever heard anyone say that? Listen to what Rambam says. Kol mishu yoshev labetach, someone who sits, eino mitamel, does not exercise, or mishu mashen ikavav, holds himself in before going to the bathroom, doesn't go as soon as his body tells him to, or mishu me'av kashin, or has constipation, afilu achal ma'achalot tovim, and is very strict to only eat healthy foods. V'shome atzmo, and he guards himself al pi ha'refuah, according to the proper prescription of the doctor, whatever it is, how to be healthy. He eats healthy and is careful with his health. But he's not following those directives. Undereating, exercise, good bowel movement. Kol yamav, his entire life, yiyu machovim, will be pains, the kocho tashash, and his strength will decrease. Ve'achila gasa leguf, kol adam, overeating for any person, k'mosam hamavet, is the same as taking poison. Doesn't mean a person dies straight away, but it's a choice to have less energy and less health. V'hu ikar lekol hacholaim. It is the main root cause of all illnesses. V'rov hacholaim, the majority of illnesses, shabayim al adam, that come upon a person, einam ela or mipnei ma'achalim ra'im, either because I'm eating unhealthy, or mipnei shu memale bitno, or because I'm overeating. Even if I'm only eating healthy. Unbelievable. That's where it's at. I'll share with you the following. Dr. Mark Hegstead, representing the Harvard School of Public Health, in his Senate report on nutrition and fitness, made the following statement. I wish to stress that there is a great deal of evidence, and it continues to accumulate, which strongly implicates and in some instances proves that the major causes of death and disability in the United States are related to the diet we eat. I include coronary and artery disease, which accounts for nearly half the deaths in the United States, several of the most common forms of cancer, hypertension, diabetes, as well as other chronic diseases. University of Texas physiologist Dr. Edward J. Massaro says that cutting protein intake by 50% greatly lengthens the lives of laboratory animals. University of California expert on aging, Dr. Ray Walford, also reports that animal studies indicate a possible 10 to 20% increase of lifespan by cutting down on food starting as late as middle age. That he's saying this on animals. You'll see in a few moments what they say about humans. That if a person started in middle age to cut down on the amount of food one eats, increases one's lifespan by 10 to 20%. How do you know this applies to animals too? Continues Dr. Ray Walford, long-term undernutrition is thus far the only method we know that slows the aging process. Undernutrition is thus far the only method we know that slows down the aging process and extends the maximum lifespan of warm-blooded animals. These findings are undoubtedly applicable to humans because undernutrition works in every animal species thus far studied. In his book, forgive me for quoting the title here, Only the Skinny Will Survive, Dr. Clive McKay of Cornell University made a classic dietary experiment in which he doubled the lifespan of rats by halving their food intake. This would be equivalent to 140 years in human terms. Professor Huxley stated that in geriatric studies it has been found that a slim body, due to little eating and excellent elimination, is an essential factor for reaching the century mark, to reach 100 years old. Dr. Stephen Smith, on his 100th birthday, was asked for the secret of his vitality. And he replied, "Take care of your stomach the first 50 years, and your stomach will take care of you the next 50. I want to share with you a statement that's not in Rambam, but it is found in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged version of the Shulchan Aruch, in chapter 32, halacha number 13. And he makes the following statement: drink your food. Which means chew and chew and chew until the food in one's mouth is liquid, and then swallow. Question: what are the benefits of chewing food to the point of liquid? There are many, but there are three major benefits of chewing food in one's mouth to the point of liquid. It's easier on the digestion. Okay, it stimulates the muscles in the mouth, which brings out the saliva, which has in it the... You get full faster. Excellent. So we've got all three here. Number one, improved digestion. Because if the food arrives in liquid form, does the stomach have more or less work to do? It's less work. So less taxing on the stomach. Stomach will last longer. Will be healthier for longer. So number one, improved digestion. Number two, what was the other one you said? You'll reach capacity. You'll reach your full much sooner. Why is that? Why is it a person will feel full sooner than if he eats and swallows food without it being liquid? It takes 20 minutes for... Correct. For the brain and the stomach to be in synchronization. I'll explain. A person goes to a smorgasbord. I never forget, the first time I came to America, and I went to a wedding, I was bowled over. I couldn't believe it. It's amazing. The amount of food, I was like shocked. It was unbelievable. And the only thing that bothered me that in England, everyone sits down. Here, everyone was standing up, eating this gigantic buffet. So I said, you know what? It's my first American wedding. Let's, get a taste of what it's really like. I was stuffed. Suddenly, I thought my eyes were seeing things. The walls started to disappear. And there was this banquet. And I looked around. The party hadn't started yet. Oh my gosh. And I was able to eat more. It's unbelievable. Chewing to the point of liquid is very interesting. You know why? Because when I eat that first course, and there's only 16 more to come, and I like the taste of that first course, what do I ask my brain? I say to my brain, could you ask the stomach, is there room for one more helping? Because this fish is out of this world. I mean, you cannot eat it. This is excellent. And the brain, you know what it does? Sends a signal to the stomach, says, stomach, are you full? Stomach says, no. Is the stomach being honest? Yes. But is the stomach giving a real answer? It's not a real answer. Why not? Because it takes 20 minutes for the food to reach the stomach, and it hasn't got there yet. So when my brain asks the stomach, hey, that course was real good. Is there room for more? Stomach says, yeah, there's room right now. But it has no idea how many cars are stuck at George Washington Bridge, and you only see like 3 or 4 coming out. Yeah, there's plenty of room on the road. Wait a minute, there are thousands of cars. There's 5 cheeseburgers, 5 burgers still coming down. I had no idea. So my brain gets the wrong answer and tells me, yeah, sure, you can have another helping. And guess what happens? I get full very quickly. But when we chew to the point of liquid, I skip that 20-minute interim. And now my stomach gives an almost immediate and accurate answer. I reach full capacity 1/3 sooner. What the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is telling us here is that natural dieting is chewing. That's naturally eating 1/3 less than a person would otherwise need to eat. Benefit number 3, awesome. What's one of the major reasons we eat food? Because we're hungry. It tastes good. Thanks for your honesty. It tastes good. What happens if a person chews and chews and chews to the point of liquid? Does the food have less exposure to the taste buds or more? They always warn you, when you speak to a Jewish audience, you have to put everything in yes, no format, because that reduces possible answers to 7. When a person eats the food in their mouth and chews and chews and chews, and the taste buds in your tongue and the gastric juices in your mouth are coming out and you're experiencing the pleasure of the food, is it for less time or more time because you're chewing for so long? More! So you get more pleasure. So listen to the 3 benefits. Chewing and chewing and chewing to the point of liquid and then swallowing has the benefit of, number 1, easy digestion. Number 2, we end up eating less by 1/3, 33% less. And number 3, more pleasure. More pleasure from the food. There's more to say on this subject, but I'm getting late, so I'm going to get quick to the end. Maimonides on stress management. Who's interested in that one? Says Maimonides, the physician, this is taken from Hanhagot HaBriyut, chapter 3, paragraph 13 to 14. If there's anyone who wants, at the end, I've got the full notes and all the Mekorot, all the sources in the source book, and there's a tape also on the subject which has an hour and a half of the full presentation. Says Maimonides, the physician should make every effort to see that everyone, sick and healthy alike, should always be cheerful, and he should seek to relieve them of the spiritual and psychological forces that cause anxiety. This is the first principle in curing any patient, especially if his illness is bound up with his mind and emotions, such as those who are depressed. In all such cases, the physician should do nothing before improving his state of mind. Interesting. That the physician should pay a lot of attention to one's emotional strength. Continues Rambam, one should never forget to strengthen the patient's physical vitality with nourishing food, to strengthen their powers with fragrant odors, with music. Interesting. By telling him happy stories that expand his heart, and by distracting his mind with things that make him and his friends laugh. Interesting. The people chosen to care for him should be those who know how to cheer him up. Rambam gives a short list of items that increase body strength, and then a short list of items that decrease body strength. The short list of items, 6 items that increase body strength. And listen how Rambam, a doctor, physician, par excellence, gives us a list of items which are not just about the physical body. Number one, things that improve and increase body strength. Moderate wine consumption, moderate food ingestion, moderate physical exercise, anything that improves a bad cardiac or arterial condition, that's for the heart. Number 5, the control of anger. And number 6, nurturing happiness. Interesting. Rambam is looking at a person in their totality, not just the physical body. Then he gives us a list of 10 items that decrease a person's physical strength. Number 1, fasting. Number 2, insomnia, not sleeping properly or not sleeping at all. Number 3, anxiety. And he adds that constant anxiety, worry, causes dissolution of body fat and loss of muscle substance. Many people have experienced very fast weight loss when they're filled with tremendous anxiety. Number 4, severe emotional drain. Number 5, anger. Number 6, constant desire for women. Number 7, lust for money. Number 8, lust for political power. Who would have imagined these things? Unbelievable. Number 9, recurring thoughts that give a person no peace. Number 10, jealousy. Interesting. Research associate in ethnopharmacology at Harvard, the best-selling author of From Chocolate to Morphine, Dr. Andrew Weil, very famous writer and physician, writes, "Your mind has tremendous power over the body and plays a huge role in your health. It determines how every system within the body functions. The respiratory system, the endocrine system, that's one's emotions, the lymph system, your immunological response, the state of your entire physiology, all comes from what you do inside your head. When the immune system becomes depressed, it is often the result of stress and what one's mind focuses on. Anger and resentment are physical poisons to the body. If we have poor coping skills, deficient social support, and high stress, then the internal balance of our bodies may easily be upset and our resistance lowered." No wonder Rambam went out of his way to list items which make us stronger and make us weaker. There's a lot more to say, but I'm going to end off because it's getting very late. I want to finish off on, there's so much I would love to add, but if you want to get it from the tape series or from the booklet, last thing I want to end off again is on his guarantee, because we covered most of the directives. And I ask you, listen to the guarantee and ask yourselves if it makes sense. Kol hamanik et atzmo, anyone who follows hadrachim, these directives, elu shoharenu, that we have taught, ani arev loy, I guarantee to him, she'enoi ba lidei chayli kol yamav, he will not come to illness his entire life, achi yaskin harbe, only till he's very old, v'yamos, and then dies. He won't need a doctor. It's unbelievable. V'yegufa shalem, he will remain, his body will remain strong, complete. V'omed al briyav, and his health will remain kol yamav, his entire life. Question: did Rambam base this on speculation, experimentation, or is this the information that's part of a transmission from Sinai that came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That Hashem, the creator of our body, who knows exactly how it functions, taught us how to take care of our health. It's not complicated, it's simple. It's a discipline, it's a choice. Chewing is a choice, it's a discipline. Happiness is a choice, it's a discipline. It's a result of many choices. Good health is a result of many choices over time. To exercise, to eat less than we really need, and to have good bowel movement, and especially chewing. And I will end off on a quick story about Chaim and Becky. Both of them died about 98 years old, and they come to heaven. And the rule is in Shemayim, in heaven, that whoever died last gets the next house down the street. And the way it goes up there is that each home is bigger than the other. So Gabriel, the archangel, takes Chaim and Becky down Heavenly Boulevard, and he's showing them one home after the other. He gets a big mansion, a palace. Each one is bigger than the other. Finally, they get to the end of Heavenly Boulevard, and the last house. And the archangel says to Chaim and Becky, here's your house. And he shows them around. 14 bedrooms, indoor swimming pool, outdoor swimming pool, jacuzzi, indoor tennis, outdoor tennis. Unbelievable. And each time They enter another room, another part of this gigantic estate. Chaim says to the angels, this is for us? Yeah, it's all yours. All of this? Yes, it's all yours. And he looks like he's getting more and more angry. Finally, his wife Becky turns to him and says, Chaim, what's the matter? You look so angry. You're in heaven. You have such a beautiful home. What's the matter with you? And he says, You, that's the matter. You and your foolish cholesterol and diets. We could have had this 20 years ago. No one is planning to leave this world early. But we can plan for the energy we do need as parents, grandparents. Do we need energy? The energy we need in running a home, in holding the career and the business together. And says Rambam, exercise, undereat, good bowel movement, and chew. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.